In that case, let's queer up. Next, let's queer up the courts. Supreme Court upholds previous inclusion of gender dysphoria as protected disability. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court let stand a federal appeals court ruling that found people with gender dysphoria should be protected against discrimination under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence dissented. According to Olivia Hunt, Policy Director for the National Center for Transgender Equality, by declining to hear the case, the Supreme Court implicitly acknowledges that the ADA protects people who experience gender dysphoria, including transgender and non-binary people, from being discriminated against on that basis. The Fourth Circuit was the first federal appellate court to determine that federal disabilities law protects transgender persons who experience anguish because of the disparity between their assigned sex and their gender identity. The decision is only binding in certain states covered by the Fourth Circuit. They are Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. The case began when a transgender woman named Kesha Williams sued the Fairfax County Sheriff in Virginia for her experience in jail. Justice Samuel Alito said that the ruling will raise several important and sensitive questions on participation in women's and girls' sports, the use of traditional pronouns, and sex reassignment therapy by physicians who object on religious and moral grounds. And good, because all those questions should be decided at the opposite opinion by Alito. Now, the Fourth Circuit is not a particularly liberal or conservative circuit. It is, and the fact that it's actually very encouraging for SCOTUS to lead a stand, because that means, and I'm guessing it's partly because of the Gorsuch decision back then that say that, you know, LGBT person is protected class, at least for some things like employment.
Right.
The problem here is that the problem is the last line from, the last thing that Alito mentioned is that would religion trump that? But the thing is though, Americans Against Disability Act trumps all, almost all.
For sure. Yeah.
So in secular circumstances, it's highly unlikely that they can prevail and say that I can treat you because I don't like you.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to hear that the U.S. Supreme Court got something right, despite the malevolent machinations of Sam the Sham Alito and dead-eyed Clarence Thomas. It's just terrifying, yeah.
Yeah.
I love your humor, by the way. I look forward to it each time.
Yeah. It's, I believe there was a line in there that you read that said it would bar medical providers from basically doing their jobs, right? From providing care to a patient. That's their job. It's what they're trained to do. And I'm so tired of politicians and crazy judges.
Who's mad? Why are these people so mad and upset about the LGBT population?
Because the simple line is they want to impose their morality on you.
But you can't. But that's the problem. I cannot impose my beliefs on anybody else, right? So you have the right to choose. You should have. I don't know. But you have the right to believe how you want to believe.
For some conservatives, again, hashtag not all conservatives, freedom for me and not for thee. That's their motto. I have the freedom to scream at you. I have the freedom to assault you.
Christian beliefs
it goes against everything.
Well, in America, it goes against being in America, right? You don't have a right to do this to people. And in healthcare, I've worked in healthcare for a long time, and the idea that these politicians can pop up out of nowhere and then affect how doctors treat their patients. I always say to people, doctors in medical school, there's no course for, how to deal with the politician who doesn't agree with your medical science. Right. There isn't a course for that. You only know how to do what you're trained to do. And it puts people in a really, really uncomfortable and really like an illegal position, because you're telling them to refuse to care for someone. Now, you and I lived this, right? Remember when AIDS was out and where people would just refuse to take care of you. Right. I thought we learned this lesson, right? Wow. You come in the emergency room, you get treated. You have something wrong with you, You go to the doctor that can take care of you, they take care of you.
Oh,
This other
that's how it
stuff,
should be.
That's how it should
How it should be, but some doctors, I mean,
no, the
these-
politicians.
yeah.
We have to stop these politicians from passing laws that affect medicine altogether.
I like the mention
Altogether.
here of HIV/AIDS because it also reminds me, right, of the ADA, which of course protects. And I agree with all, like, that is to think about how the ADA is going to stand as a really important way of safeguarding so many of our protections because it has historically stood that ground.
Yes.
And kind of served that purpose outside of religious freedom.
Right.
So we could kind of look to the ADA as a kind of shield from
Right.
from some of these more.
Now, Justice Hinkle got it right here in the state of Florida a couple of weeks ago, where he said, listen, I can't find one medical provider on the planet who doesn't agree with gender-affirming care, right? It's like it doesn't exist in medical science. So these laws and these different things, they shouldn't be happening.
No.
At least the Supreme Court, like you said, it got it right for now, for this moment, for this second. We'll see what happens in an hour.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ+ community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.